Welcome back to Reimagine 2020. I'm Yonah Hochhauser, and I'm glad to be joined by Itai Elizur, COO and partner at MarketAcross. Itai, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, first, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got into blockchain.
Sure. So I'm a partner at a marketing agency. Well, we're actually two marketing agencies under the same roof. One is called Inbound Junction. It's still active and historically into the B2B SaaS space. I'm a marketer for about more than 10 years in the B2B and SaaS space, which is very big in Israel. We're a Tel Aviv-based agency. And about, I would say, 4 or 5 years ago, we were getting pretty big in the fintech space, and some of our bigger and better partners in Israel talked to us about the growing space. And two of my partners are very early investors in Bitcoin, lost a lot of money in Mt. Gox. And we just kind of opened a sister agency called MarketAcross and started working with projects. We were very active in the ICO boom in 2017, and we've kind of, I think, matured with industry. And today we are a kind of full stack marketing agency working with a lot of big names.
Mm-hmm. And so, how does marketing for blockchain and crypto, how does that differ? Because like you said, you're kind of doing both sides. You have under one roof. What's the core differences for marketing?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So I would say at least the first generation of projects that I was part of, let's say 2017. So I always say that I think blockchain has been over PR'd and under marketed because there weren't actual products. It was more of mission statements and ideas, and most of these base protocols, again, you don't have a big CTA on the website of sign up or purchase or whatever. So very, very different from classical, I would say, B2B marketing, which has literally a conversion point, as in you put something in your Google Analytics and you're saying, all right, I'm optimizing towards a funnel or something like that. So I would think that is the most core difference between product marketing and more, I would say, branding and marketing and maybe even assisting fundraising style marketing. So that's, I think, the core difference. And I think the other one would be today about there's just so much maturity so very fast. So when you go to the other part, which are products, there'll be a wallet, an exchange or whatever, you have environments where there's 50 or 60 companies who came up in 2-3 years, and it's so hard for them to differentiate, and especially for a marketer to try to convey that message. So yeah, I think that's how I'd see it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and you do hit upon an interesting point where this is so new, and it kind of there are some leaders in some spots in this sphere, but still, is that a big issue? This problem of differentiation where as a marketer you have to single out, you're trying to take your client and say this is why they're different, but is the customer base even knowledgeable enough about the technology that you could differentiate easily here?
That's a great question. So let's differentiate between, I would say, base protocols and technology, and then products like exchanges or wallets. Mm-hmm. So when people who come to us, again, mostly developers, a lot of the CEOs or developers in the blockchain space are very, very techy, maybe don't come from a business or marketing background. They'll come to us and say, oh, my network goes to 11, and kind of its speed or whatever. And me as a marketer, I'm going to say, all right, but what's on the block? How many transactions are you actually processing? So, and that's a big gap between when a lot of people want to sell the tech and its capabilities, and when you want to say, all right, but me as a marketer or a PR person, at least today, people much more want to see about adoption. So that's like, I think on the tech level where you need to go and say, all right, you're not going to talk about triple sharding, whatever, because that's not really the main thing. And how do you bring that towards usable business use case? And when it comes to product marketing, and it's also a bit together, I think it's kind of like shilling is great outside, but when we sit inside and we do the strategy, we have to look each other in the eye and be like, all right, there's a lot of exchanges. What's different about this one? Other than, our goal is to create the easiest platform. Okay, it's great, but right now in the other space, what are you giving people? What's different? And how do you play on that really exact difference? Could be the non-KYC concept. It could be the fiat pairings. It could be a really good mobile interface. But we're in that place already. We're already in a place where people are discussing that, not just saying we're going to build the nicest exchange. So I think we're an industry that's moving in the marketing space from want, will, and can to like are, is, and doing. So that's for me like my biggest mission with my clients is to really notch it down from the potential to what's actually happening.
And can you give us a little insight into kind of, then and now? Let's look back 2017 or even the early days compared to now.
early days, what,
block
2015?
exactly. It's so young, but like, you know, are your clients, are they trying and focusing on kind of getting a bigger piece of the pie of getting more of the early adopters and crypto natives to their platforms, to their protocols, or are we at the point where they're trying to get, you know, outsiders and literally go to just people on the street and trying to grab them into this whole new space?
So most, let's say on the PR end, which is a lot of what we do, most publications now are very crypto skeptic. So first of all, they saw the whole ICO boom and all these people, is blockchain going to change the travel industry? Spoiler alert, it didn't. So that's one thing. And also the other thing is that most of these publications, even if they do have someone who talks about it, their technical knowledge is really, really, really thin. So that creates a situation where I understand that also in other spaces, if you want to take your message outside of the crypto space, from my personal opinion, it has to have something outside of crypto. So a wallet to exchange integration or all that kind of stuff is inside crypto. Now, I'm not saying, so when Binance bought CoinMarketCap for $400 million, all right, that's something you can take outside the industry. But usually when I talk to my clients on the PR end, if it's crypto to crypto, I usually try and, again, keep it a bit into crypto because that's just where it lives. And whenever you can take things that have applications outside of it, then of course you want to take it outside. But you'll see that on the enterprise level, it's on the big companies. Most of the big companies I know, or interesting companies I'm working with right now that aren't after crypto audiences, as in they don't have a token or they're not a wallet, they just use blockchain for something, then for them, blockchain is like saying we're on a cloud. They don't even talk about that. That might be in like the how they do it kind of thing. But you really see that a lot of companies working in the telco space. We have a company working in the naval space with kind of like different registries and supply chain. If they don't have a token and they're not going for that space, most likely if my dad or mom would go to the website, they wouldn't know blockchain is even involved.
Mm-hmm. And so is that a goal kind of for you and for the industry to kind of differentiate, you know, to the masses that blockchain is different than crypto, that blockchain, it powers crypto, but not necessarily is crypto?
Yes, I think crypto is a use case of blockchain. It's definitely just one of them. And I think that that's I think that you need to differentiate Bitcoin and altcoins. Mm-hmm. Like even Bitcoin and Ether, you need to differentiate Bitcoin and everything else. And then you have to differentiate blockchain to crypto. Yes, I think that that's a very, very fair assessment you should do. And tokenized and not tokenized company. It's really, really different. When you have a company that doesn't have a 24/7 listed asset out there, everything on the marketing space just becomes different. Now, again, some token-based companies are much more obsessed about their tokens than others. Some are really, they don't just say it. I have clients who literally I have weekly calls with, and the notion of what do we do with the token has never come up, but it's still there. Can't say something.
And so would you think it's fair to say that out of all these different elements, which has the worst branding problem right now? Which kind of, I mean, I know the ICO kind of left a bad taste in people's mouths, but has Bitcoin kind of grown out of that and now it's only altcoins that still are dealing with that, or to the average consumer, they're all the same thing and it's kind of, this is criminal money?
So I don't think people think it's criminal money anyway. For me, what I loved about the promise of dApps, which I still believe in it, is that we're going to create these microeconomies and it's going to disrupt technology and it's going to take out the man. And I think it's really, really cool. I still believe in those little, you know, barber coins that I'll exchange towards a pizza coin or that kind of stuff. So I like that, but that died. And I think that people are very skeptic about that part. I think right now, if there's interest, it's about financial tools. So with whole yield farming and swapping and whatever, it's cool, but they're like, all right, so they're playing in high risk financial tool environment. And I think that's, again, talking about DeFi, which is what we're doing right now. DeFi is important and interesting, but it's no longer, are we doing a new Uber or, you know, file sharing or decentralized DDoS or Cloudflare, which for me as a product marketer at the beginning, that was like amazingly, really, really cool. So I think that today, for me, the notion, or outside of crypto, if I ask like my dad or whatever, it's more like, all right, you guys are just playing in like the weirdest kind of economical semi-betting space. I don't think it's drug money. It's just like high stake, semi-bullshit yield stuff with them.
Right. Well, you bring up DeFi. And DeFi is definitely the hottest topic in the crypto sphere right now. But has it reached outside? Is DeFi known about or spoken about?
Okay, so that's a great question. I have many clients coming to me and say, look, we're on this and this, and we're a pretty well-known token. We're on the biggest exchanges. We're not like something out of nowhere. And we have a new staking program, and we're offering people 100% yield a year. How is that not something that's going to go to the New York Times and Wall Street Journal? Like, I'm offering someone 100% yield a year, but that is still something that I haven't seen on my end. Maybe other people, and again, I'm not Morgan Stanley, and I'm not in the trade rooms, but like anecdotally, or at least like news-wise, I haven't seen massive amounts of people that are outside of crypto taking their fiat money and getting into 100% yield staking. They might be buying Bitcoin, and you see that. You see literally people getting their Trump bucks and going to buy their first or whatever Bitcoin. I still haven't seen a rush towards 100% yield farming on crypto assets as true diversification of long tail Americans. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I'll take a slight tangent away from DeFi because something you mentioned, people taking their Trump bucks to put it in the market. Historically, Bitcoin maximalists and crypto lovers in general have really, up until the DeFi boom and even up until ICO boom, one of the big promises was, hey, this is a currency that is separate from governments. This is out of the hands of centralized control. It's anti-inflationary. You don't have to worry about governments printing money. And this was kind of like, this is what the Bitcoin lovers would say. And then any regular person would be like, what are you talking about? I trust the government, the money. Like it's kind of hard to buy in if you're a regular person. But then now you see the government, it's pretty clear, even to the masses, that the government just hands out money. The government is printing money. Do you find this is a much easier sell, this angle of, hey, money outside of government control?
So I want to say yes. I have a lot to say about that. So first of all, I want to say yes, but then you say, all right, cool. So, all right, I don't want to trust this Ben Bernanke or whoever the Fed guy is right now or whatever, and Trump. So who should I trust? I'm like, okay, have you heard of Satoshi? And they're like, who? I'm like, oh, long story, never mind. So yes, but I do think that Bitcoin has getting that trust. But I think that this new verge of these DeFi, anoning it, who is sushi chef, that's even worse. So this concept of like trustless, if it's so trustless, why don't I know your name? So I do think there's a problem there, to be honest. And I think that that's maybe the main issue right now looking into that. And
well,
also,
okay,
I think that DeFi right now boom is actually doing amazingly for Bitcoin, because the whole promise of Bitcoin right now, you have a perfect storm. You had the halving along with Corona, along with the endless amount of printing of money. And then you saw at some point that the Bitcoin didn't go boom. And for me, that was a very big test period. You're like, it even went down. So you're like, wait a second. Everyone is doing a huge run for the book is happening right now. The script, like this is the scene, and we're not kicking in. So that was, I think, like really, really scary. And right now, the fact that we are doing these tools, and again, I think they're super speculative and they're too much or whatever, it's the only thing that's actually, I think, bringing this kind of life, because people thought that the market's going to go down, and it didn't. And people were going to print money and people understand, and they're going to buy all the Bitcoin, and it didn't happen. It's happening anecdotally here and there, but I don't think you saw a tidal wave of it. So I think that DeFi is interesting for that, because it maybe gives us another round to make everything a bit more ready for, hopefully it will never happen, but the next round. Because at some point we're looking for this huge tipping point. Like, people don't think that Bitcoin should be linear as it is, even though it's an amazing linear and it's the best investment in the past 10 years, but like, it's not hockey sticking towards money out.
Well, I mean, so we keep on making this comparison, or there seems to be this comparison made between the current DeFi boom and the ICO boom. And once again, that's not to say there are no legitimate projects during the ICO boom, and it's not to say there's no legitimate project right now with DeFi, but there seems to be this kind of wariness of, whoa, this thing is growing a little too big. There seems to be a lot of empty things going on there, and especially on the marketing end. I think it's fair to say that during the ICO boom, that really brought in a lot of money and incentivized a lot of money to be spent on marketing, because, hey, we want to bring money into our project. We want people to buy our tokens. but with DeFi, is there even that same entity that could spend on marketing on the marketing PR side? Are you seeing that influx?
So first of all, you hit the nail on the head right now, and I think it's a very good question. And I know because you come from the industry. So for me as a service provider in the ICO boom, it was a gold shovel, and we were selling shovels, and people were calling us, and they were getting the kind of the initial funding, and it was maybe a foundation or whatever. But yes, it was an entity, and there was a goal. These projects right now are being done, and by the way, a lot of money is being invested, but it's being invested not directly and not through whatever. It's being invested in 4chan and in Telegram and all these different things, and giving yield farming to people. So at some point, I find it's even like worse than the last round when it comes to marketing, because then at least someone was like, all right, I'm seeing a video of someone explaining something. I'm pretty sure it's like an ad or whatever. Now it's like these enormous conversations and FOMOing. And again, there's similarities, but there's differences. As I said, you don't have companies who are signing contracts with vendors and ICO listing sites or all these different things. They're really, really like black hatting it all, which is innovative and cool, but also problematic.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Well, DeFi definitely is the main talking point, and I'm sure. Listen, as a marketer, you try to drive the narrative. You try to steer the narrative for your clients, and so this is relatively new, this DeFi boom. So how has this affected your other clients, the clients of the crypto and blockchain that you're trying to drive a narrative, and then now this crazy wave is happening? Is that drowning out any kind of narrative?
It's a great. So first of all, great questions, and I think for a lot of companies, it's a test of focus. So let's say you went and you did your ICO. You didn't go too crazy. It was a normal amount of money, and you were there from day one, and you're working on your product. Token went down like almost all tokens, and then you're building it back up. You're building a user base. You have a platform. You're on your timetable. And by the way, there's a lot of these projects. Again, they maybe raised too much money. At some point, it was the token was too inflated, but they're there. They're doing what they want to do, and then they're working hard. And they have, I don't know what, it could be a cashback app. It could be 10 different things. And now DeFi is happening, and you're like, okay, what am I doing right now? Am I jumping on this bandwagon? Am I doing a governance token? Am I doing a side project? Or am I reminding myself that I was on the last boom and I have this path, and I'm doing a product-based company that's using blockchain, and there's a utility token in it because I really built an economy around the utility token, and I stand behind that. And now if I'm like, all right, utility out, governance in, and we're seeing that. I can't lie. We're seeing a lot of companies losing focus because they're like, all right, so industry is changing, and this is what we're doing right now, and we need funding anyway, so let's do a DAO,
Mm-hmm. And you can't really, I mean, it's tough to fault. I understand, but I kind of could see both sides, because one, this whole industry is so young that it is very possible that what they once were trying to do is no longer viable, and what's coming on.
It even makes sense for your token holders. It even makes sense. So if you own that token and it was a really interesting utility token, and by the way, the SEC has done a lot of issues. So the whole concept of utility token has been problematic for a lot of different areas. And right now, if you're not going to change your model of work, you might be actually doing something that's wrong towards your token holders, your employees, your investors, everything, because you're still working on something that maybe you want to stay focused, but maybe the market doesn't want or need anymore.
Mm-hmm. And when we're looking at first it was yams, and then now
sushi, tacos, hot dogs, whatever.
Exactly. I mean, so this is similar to like I was saying with the ICO, where there seems to be like kind of these big explosions, these kind of this massive booms that obviously draw the public eye, that draws the focus of the spectators, in the industry and outside the industry. And does this do good as an image? Like, is all press good press type of thing in this industry?
Yeah, so I'll take a question into two things. The first round had a bunch of people that have nothing to do with mobility going to say, we were with Morgan Stanley, we're going to beat Uber in 2 years from now and do this whole app or whatever, and say that they're going to build an app. And that was kind of seems kind of iffy or whatever, and it didn't happen or it did happen. This round, they're not even saying they're building a product. It's like, there's a pool, we're going to take liquidity, we're going to wrap it with this, whatever, and it's going to create value. So it's kind of cutting the bullshit. And I think that one of the things we're going to see in this round, and I think it's very similar to the last round. So bubbles are bad and people lost a lot of money, I'm sure, but I don't think the ICO boom had a lot of real casualties, because there's a lot of people who became virtually rich really, really fast. And then they became virtually not that rich really fast because that ether that they holded or started getting to more ICOs or whatever fell. I think you're going to see a lot of that with DeFi right now. So the people who are yielding sushi right now or whatever, and they're going to take it from sushi to tuna to sashimi to whatever, at some point it's going to fall. But most of what's going to fall is this, I think, most of the yield that they already did in these places. So bubbles are bad, but I don't feel that this is like the dot-com bubble of the 90s or the mortgage bubble where like people are in the street. Like I don't think ICO boom made a lot of people homeless. I'm sure that there were bad stories, but it's not that type of thing. It goes up and down. So that's what I think a bit about this bubble. I think it's going to be shorter. It's not going to be as presumptuous of we're building all these companies. It's people saying, I have a liquidity pool. Do it at your own risk. You really know what the risk is. There's a lot of game theory here. Some are going to win and you might lose.
Mm-hmm. And I think that does, there is a big distinction between the ICO boom and DeFi where I think the big problem with the ICO is that you were selling utility tokens, you weren't selling equity. If I'm going to the regular stock market and there's an IPO coming on and I believe in this company, so I'm going to put money into it, and then now I have equity in that company. I have a piece of ownership, whereas with the utility token, you were paying money on the promise that what you just bought might be usable and not necessarily valuable.
There's actually even, I agree with you 100%, but there's even another layer. And I've seen a lot of people, economists, write about this, saying that the concept of utility token has an intrinsic fail because we live in a fiat world. So even if you're going to have that taxi hailing app, it's going to be whatever, the person who's going to use it, he lives in a world where he still uses fiat in his bank or whatever. So, and also so there's other hail services on the place. So it has to be competitive. So the utility token can't go to $1 billion or because the tax rate has to be worth something. Or if it does, then the fractional use of it, of the amount of the right is going to be really small. So something about even that internal economy kind of made, I think, utility tokens not really usable. So you have all these people who are doing, again, a taxi hailing app in Dublin, but all the tokens were sold in a private sale to Koreans. I don't know if they're going to come to Dublin ever. So of course, there was a lot of problems with that model, of course.
And then switching over, looking at DeFi, it's kind of a totally different beast because, I mean, right now it's like all booms, it's mostly speculative. It kind of only works at the way the tools are set up now.
100% yield doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Right.
It's not sustainable. Right. We can't do 100% yield. It's just not something that works.
I mean, people will say Ponzi scheme, and I think that's too nefarious. I don't think the intent here is nefarious. It's everyone's greedy and everyone wants to get in on the action. As long as enough people keep on getting in, you're fine, and the last person holding the bag gets fucked. So that's it's
pretty sure that's the definition of a Ponzi scheme.
But I feel like in a Ponzi scheme, there is a nefarious intent. I think in a Ponzi scheme,
exactly. I agree. I think people are in this.
Here they're aware.
I don't know. So I know a lot of people yielding sushi, kimchi, all that stuff. No one that does this in the MetaMask and give liquidity thinks he's doing something that actually makes a lot of like knowledgeable sense. So I agree with you. It's like I feel like it's a pyramid that everyone knows exactly the pyramid. They just really hope it's going to grow beneath them. And I think that's right now. I don't think that DeFi is a pyramid. I think that these copy-paste wrappers right now are by definition a pyramid, but with the terms I think the terms and conditions are known to everyone.
Right. I mean, like you said before, I don't think there are suckers here. There were suckers. There were some suckers in the ICO. You could kind of be calling the hype. I don't think there are suckers in DeFi because it's so complicated even to use and get into that you have to kind of know what you're doing to even get involved. I really don't. I think there is a higher barrier of entry.
I agree with you on the B2C kind of retail side. I will differentiate two types of DeFi. So I think there's a lot of these liquidity things, which is fascinating. Again, I might shit on it here. I think it's fascinating, and the fact that everyone can provide it's really insane to me. the other part of these like third collateral lending stuff is something that I'm much more afraid of. The concept of, all right, give me your tokens and I'll create copy number 1, which you're going to get yield on. Then I'll create copy number 2, which you can give someone liquidity. And then copy number 3, it could be collateral for, and that's overinflation of things that I'm really, really afraid of. And I differentiate those kind of things. I differentiate liquidity games and like fractional loans and yields and whatever. Because also a yield, when someone says, I promise you a yield, there's some kind of a promise there. And I don't think that any of these sushi smooshies are telling you how big it's going to go. That's the beauty of it. It could go a billion, you know? Right.
And so right now, a big topic from this past week was Chef Nomi, of sushi, kind of, selling, kind of dumping his tokens onto the market. And people have this seems to be an
Charlie
issue
Lee
with,
did it when Litecoin was highest. Charlie Lee, when Litecoin was highest, he said, all right, guys, I'm going to do this. And by the way, he didn't disappear. I see him in all the conferences. He's still there. Actually, so I don't know who Chef is and no one knows. I think that the guy did something or really, I'm not going to say altruistic because he took money, but he did something or like really clean or really stupid. Because a lot of people in crypto who are very influential could have just bought his wallet. He could have gone and say to someone, hey, here's my wallet. Here's the address. Send me the funds, and that's
OTC.
it. No, not even OTC. The coins. Sell the private key. Give the wallet away. Say, here's $15 million worth of sushi. Give me $12 million worth of whatever, and here's a private key. Here's the computer. So he didn't do that. And again, I don't know if he's stupid, and I don't think he's stupid, or he wanted to play it the way that it should be played.
Right. And I also don't understand this issue. Because people are upset with pre-mine and then selling off. If you look at the traditional world, okay, you're Mark Zuckerberg, you start Facebook. You pre-mined 100%.
Well, actually, I think he forked Facebook from someone else, but never mind.
Yeah, okay, he stole it. Bad example, he stole it from somebody else. But regardless, when you make a company or you make a product, you own 100% equity. You pre-mined 100% of the coins for it, and then you decide to go to IPO or whatever, and you sell off your stake. That's the way the traditional world works. So do you feel here people's issues with it is that, hey, we're supposed to be different than the traditional world? We want everything to be 0% equity and let it all be shared and fair? Or is the issue that people feel like, hey, I invested here and now I feel like you're running away from the product? As in, if people assume that Chef Nomi was going to stay, he sold those coins, but he was going to stay on with it.
But who is he? Who is he? That's a great question. All right. Is he liable for anything?
No.
Okay.
No, he's not.
So if he, 10 minutes before he left, if you put a self-detonation button on that, and is there anything you can do to him?
No.
It's a great question. Mark Zuckerberg, very different. And so Mark Zuckerberg was sued and he's paid stuff and went to Congress and all these different things. So I'm not a big fan of Facebook, but there has to be accountability in order for there to be trust. And this whole trustless situation, trustlessness without accountability is not a healthy business environment, in my opinion.
And
but
so
Mr. Sushi Chef made a lot more money than I did. So.
Yeah. And so, Will, as a marketer and someone who has to kind of sell, sometimes new ideas like this to markets, how will you be able to sell this trustlessness and unaccountability to the public? Is it just a simple matter of education? As in, if you were able to matrix and download, all your crypto knowledge about how these things work into the general public, would it then be an easy sell, or is it still on its base level not an easy sell?
So that's a great question. I'm going to say something that sounds like a cop-out, but it's not. I really don't think I don't market tokens. I market like projects and technology. And by the way, I don't market a lot of DeFi rappers because, first of all, they don't hire me. And again, you can call me. I'll do some work. But so it's different. It's usually, let's say in ICOs or whatever, you're still selling technology. You don't sell it as a financial tool. At least I don't in my type of marketing. There's a lot of different type of like community building marketing, very big in different like Asian countries where it's like cacao chat rooms or whatever. It's not really what I do. I don't create communities. But yeah, so for me, it's tech. It's a bit different. So I don't market like the value of it, but I think that also gets to your pre-mining thing. The value of it, if you're saying I'm building not a pyramid, there's no pyramids, I'm building a forest. So you want to make sure the person wants to make sure that he's one of the first trees to be whatever there. And I think the question is like, so you said, I'll take the Mark Zuckerberg one. You said Mark Zuckerberg had 100% equity. That means that if I check in the registry of the company, I see it as 100% equity. And I see that that's that one person. I don't know who mined it. I don't know these kind of things. So if you're going to tell in the white paper, oh, the developer only has 0.5% of the tokens here, this is completely legit. But 20% of the tokens have already been pre-mined in the first week on mainnet before anyone heard about it. Who did that? Oh, I don't know. So again, it's about what do I know? And what happens to someone who tells me something that isn't true? And that's accountability.
So, you kind of mentioned before how a lot of these discussions in DeFi is different, where they're on 4chan, they're on many different platforms that aren't really, it's not like a billboard. And so when you're marketing for blockchain, for crypto as a whole, where is the focus? Where are the eyeballs? You obviously put out ads and you put out content and you want eyeballs to see them. Where are the eyeballs in the space?
So I still think that at least well, I don't know if I could say that about all the yield farming stuff, because maybe then they start really from beneath and they go up. I still think that what you do today is you want to get mainstream, and that mainstream could be even CoinDesk if it's a crypto space and Cointelegraph or whatever. But you want something to have validity in the more real world, and then that kind of goes down into sub communities. You can also belly up it, and that's what you've been doing this. But even though it's very important for you to tell everyone, and now I don't know who's behind any of these, even though Sushi already some people have come out or whatever. Almost none of these are actually spontaneous. They're not two developers who did this in 3 days. There is huge players behind this, and there's big exchanges and liquidity players and syndicates or whatever. So the concept of people are doing this, it's up in 2 days. First of all, for like coolness and marketing wise, and also for like plausible deniability when it comes to like legal stuff. But these aren't things that just popped out.
And so that's in the DeFi space. But how about like on just for like more mainstream blockchain blockchain clients, or even enterprise blockchain clients? I want to talk to you a little about where if you're trying to put out a campaign, let's say, is that going to crypto Twitter? Is that where you're going to reach?
For me personally, and again, I'm going to get a lot of shit about this. I don't believe in crypto Twitter. I think crypto Twitter is like an insider circle thing. I don't think it drives traffic. It doesn't drive user base. It doesn't drive wallets to have downloads. It's great for like, the people around it, the CZs and the fights or whatever. It's great for like token marketing, but like
it's the Real Housewives of crypto. That's it's a reality show.
Yeah. But if you're a wallet, then you want to be on product hunts because maybe you want people to download you, and you want to be in different places in content marketing that are posted or are on Google index on top 5 wallets. So at least that's when you're getting close to a product. There's a big affiliate sites. There's a lot of these things that I think are when it comes to, is it a product? But if it's an awareness game or whatever, it could be crypto Twitter. I think YouTube influencers are still a very big space. Podcasts are getting bigger. And I think there's also a very big differentiation in media between like news media, the Cointelegraph, and the more kind of trader media. So let's say something that talks about, airdrops or like yields or whatever. If I now pitch one of the more major crypto publications, hey, my client's is launching a new 150% yield program. They're going to say this is super promotional. I'm not going to talk about that. But other publications, because that's what they do, they want to have people come to them who are looking every day to say, where am I yield farming today? So it's becoming compartmentalized, I think, but like still fluid. Yeah, it's still there, but there's a lot of these like 4chans, but I feel like the 4chan is much more of the token marketing. It's not product marketing in any way.
You mentioned YouTube influencers, and if you look at and I'm sure from the traditional marketing side, influencer marketing is very big nowadays, and it's
getting smaller, by the way.
Getting smaller because people lost the trust. It became big. It started off because people were like, "Ooh, this is a person and not a company. I trust you." And so my question is this:
but if hot guy / hot girl has a new hot bikini / whatever every week, then we understand that that's just a game,
Right. And so then that leads my question for influencers in blockchain in this whole world, where inherently there aren't names known in this world. Everything is kind of anonymous. There aren't big names. So is influencer marketing stronger in blockchain because I could finally find a face to blame if it goes wrong and to trust, or is it less strong? And where does it fall on the spectrum?
That's also another good question. So I think that there's two types of influencer marketing. There was in the ICO stage in the beginning, it was more like endorsementships. You're like, all right, there's like, I'm looking for curation. I'm looking for curation.
Advisors, product advisors.
There's 150 ICOs out there. This guy has a reputation. He's not gonna, again, I'm sure that there's some kind of a monkey business, but even there, he does some kind of validation. And I'm looking for him to tell me what I need to invest in, what I need to do. I think today, and you see that most of these influencers have moved into much more of a news cycle type of art of show. Great for me as a publicist, and also someone who doesn't do a lot of like hardcore token marketing. And then it's about getting narratives and stories in there. It's no longer a deep dive about, here's this protocol and I'll tell you how it shards or whatever. It's more like, all right, here's what you need to know happened today. And I see that happening in most of the larger channels on YouTube or whatever, where it's less of product focuses and much more about, here's our news for today. They're becoming more of like their version of a Ben Shapiro or Joe Rogan style.
Right. More commentators on the actual market. Exactly. Okay. And is that driven by? Is that a good thing? Is that driven by necessity because no one's buying? No one's believing?
Driven by the law. Also
Okay.
driven by the law. These guys can't. Again, a lot of these people they have their name out there. They have a reputation. A lot of them are Americans or have connection to America, and it's not even going through YouTube stuff. A lot of this stuff, and again, I don't want to go into names, but a lot of the people that were on the first round of these, you don't see them around anymore, and you maybe see them living in other countries, whatever. People, again, if you were pushing BitConnect on your YouTube and doing all that,
BitConnect.
Yeah, exactly. Or a lot of these projects that like literally like went to zero, and you did huge, then you're gonna have some problems. Yeah, and you should, by the way, you really should.
Yeah, I remember that actually. They still, I think those court cases are still going out. Like Floyd Mayweather, like a couple of celebrities who kind of got a bunch of money at the time, didn't even know what it was. Like, sure, we'll do a talking point for this. And
by the way, if Kim Kardashian does a lot of stuff for a face cream, and that face cream end up to give people severe burns, then she should get some problems as well. It's not only false advertising; it's false advertising for something that then damaged you and so on.
I agree. And so now that we're talking about kind of the government and the lawmaker side of things, in PR, how much of your PR is actually focused at regulators? Because regulators, not necessarily in DeFi, but in this market, do hold a lot of power and can control the flow of things. So how much of your marketing and PR is actually focused towards the people making the rules?
So for me personally, I think a very small amount of that. I'm not like a lobbyist. I think a lot of what we do is towards non-crypto audience education that then might affect regulators vote differently, ask different questions from their congressman or whatever. So I don't think that I don't think that Congress people will see most of the work that I do, but I think a lot of people that will vote for the next Congress do. So that's kind of how I see it.
Well, then, you're probably closer to the lobbying field than I am. Is there a big lobbying push in the blockchain space to again to try to lobby?
You're talking about, again, much more on the financial side of assets and ETFs and that, not about distributed ledger on the B2C end and privacy and information. Again, and that's my personal recollection. I don't know this statistically in any way, but I feel that there's much more lobbying on the ability to use the new financial tools we're building and less about the Satoshi's vision. Let's put it that way.
And essentially, your job is to drive adoption. I mean, that's the for the talks and that. So, everyone has their theories about how do we reach mass adoption. Well, you're the expert here. You get paid for this. What is crypto? Well, let's break it down. What is blockchain's route to mass adoption? Probably enterprise, I imagine. What is crypto's route to mass adoption, and what is DeFi's route to mass adoption?
Mass adoption for blockchain, for crypto, and for DeFi.
Yeah.
All right. So I think blockchain, it's, again, I'm going to use a lot of things that everyone kind of knows, but it's killer dApps on the B2C side, as in I'm using my father as an example, as my father hailing that app or trading or whatever, doing something that's a day-to-day thing that he does anyway today, but doing that on a dApp. or because he wants to earn some kind of thing and have his own privacy or data, or just because it's better for that app to work that way. And we're going to get that on the enterprise level. So for me, that's like blockchain. Crypto. I think crypto is a great question. I think there has to be a real differentiation between types of crypto, and none of them have been payment yet. So it's all, so it's, again, talking about currency for a second, there's a means of exchange. There's a, so we have a means of exchange a bit and store of value, but it's not tradability. I haven't seen one cryptocurrency today, maybe you can correct me, that has not only been designed, but has been implemented towards actual transactions. So it's, and I think it's a big issue, or we're getting off of that crypto and it's only kind of a store of value. And then it has to be much more consolidation. We have to be like, all right, there's like this is like gold, this is like, there can't be that much, it's that many. So I think that's a big issue for like crypto, blockchain, enterprise. I don't know if my cloud storage becomes a blockchain, it's great for developers, whatever. It's not going to change blockchain for the world. It's great on the dev thing, it'll become, but the main issue that, at least from what I hear from most of the enterprise things right now is, and that's why there's a lot of shit for like VCs when they see things about blockchain. It's like, what makes your business today easier and better to run with blockchain? There aren't a lot of companies and industries that can say what it is. It could be a better value proposition and more control in the future, but right now, the way that most of blockchain is working, there's not a lot of businesses and industries that can really prove that it improves their underlying business from today to tomorrow. And that's a big issue. I think it's still pretty slow. It's still pretty clunky. It's not there just yet, but it might get there. DeFi. It's a big question. As I said, I think DeFi and CeFi, but CeFi not like as crypto CeFi of an actual, like a centralized exchange. I'm talking about like government, whatever. Yeah. I think that for DeFi to explode, it needs to be the next time that I see, I'm not talking about a day, next time that we see a real problem in the world finance, or I don't know, a stand down between Kim Jong and Trump or whatever, seeing not a week, not a few days, seeing an influx of fiat money being printed by governments. Thank you so much. We'll take the present, and getting that into DeFi and staying there, and not like seeing off ramp. When I see a lot of coming in and not a lot coming out for a substantial amount of time, then we're there. We're on the path. And I don't see that right now. I see the same pot that we all had, and we're finding another ways to increase it. But it's not. I don't think it's creating inflation on the dollar. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. Okay, we're up to the rapid fire question round. I'm gonna ask you 3 questions. One word answers, hopefully. If not, you can actually expand upon them. Will Ethereum 2.0 come out this year? Yes or no? I have no clue on the dev side. I think it doesn't really matter anymore if I think it has to come just for like the message of it, but the tech, there's just so many things there I don't even know. So hard to know, but I have a lot of clients who hope it's not going to come out. Okay, right. Because people are making a lot of money as it is. Why rock the boat? Okay. Describe DeFi in 1 word. New. Okay. Wow. Pretty good. Sushi or yam? Bitcoin. I like it. All right. That's an easy, that's a good answer that won't upset anyone or rock any boat. I like that as well. And in general, model-wise, I believe that the YAM model has a much larger expiration date than the Sushi model. I think that all these new wrappers above wrappers literally have an expiration date. I think it's like a game theory Jenga game of who's going to be able to get it the last moment. But that's my personal opinion. But I'm not a big farmer. Okay, and last question. This is your chance. You get to chill one product or client right now. So which one do you believe in the most? Which one of your clients excites you the most? Not saying the other ones aren't good. Very easy right now, and the industry sees it as well. And that's Web3 Foundation and Polkadot. I think that the stuff that they're doing right now, and again, we have the great pleasure of working with them as a group with the Parity Group. But I think that is by far the most interesting projects that we're seeing, I think, right now on the core blockchain space. And what's so exciting about that? What gives it so much promise? I think the fact that they have a real, actual developer community, which is something that you only saw in Ethereum when that happened, and I think that that's a very, very big issue because let's be honest, people aren't really building on blockchain unless you incentivize them immensely. So I think that's a very big thing, and you also see that I don't know. I think like the lines are coming in together. They're playing it correctly when it comes to regulators. I think that they're here for stay.
Well, Itai, thank you so much for taking the time.
Sure.
Go enjoy the rest of your vacation. And
Thank you.
for all of our viewers at home for Reimagine 2020, I'm Yonah Hochhauser. Thanks for watching.